If I told you there's a sweet food that can heal wounds, fight bacteria, soothe your gut, calm your throat, fuel your brain, and last for thousands of years without spoiling, and we basically erased it from our modern diet, you probably think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I'm talking about honey, but not the cheap yellow squeeze bottle on the supermarket shelf. I'm talking about real, unprocessed, medicinal-grade honey, the kind ancient cultures treated like liquid gold. The kind your great-great-grandparents probably used as medicine before pharmacies were a thing. And in this video, I'm going to show you why this sugar actually heals, how we managed to erase it from our daily lives, and how to use it smartly today without wrecking your blood sugar or your wallet. This is not a honey cures everything fairy tale. I've spent years digging into the research, testing different types of honey, using it on wounds, colds, digestion issues, you name it. I've seen what works, what's hype, and what's basically flavored syrup in a cute jar. So if you've been told all sugar is bad or you've been scared away from honey because of calories and carbs, stay with me. By the end, you'll understand exactly when honey is a superfood and when it's just expensive dessert. For most of human history, honey wasn't just a sweetener. It was medicine. Egyptians used it on wounds, the Greeks gave it to warriors, traditional cultures used it for coughs, stomach issues, and preservation. They didn't know what antimicrobial or prebiotic meant, but they knew one thing: wherever honey went, infections and rot didn't. Fast forward to the modern era. We invented white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and ultra-processed, dirt-cheap sweeteners. Honey went from medicinal food to just another sugar, and to be fair, a lot of what's labeled as honey today is exactly that: overheated, filtered, blended, sometimes even mixed with rice syrup or corn syrup. That's how a healing superfood got downgraded to pancake topping. Before we dive into the good stuff, I want to make one thing crystal clear. Not all honey is created equal. If you only take one thing from this video, let it be this: the type of honey and how you use it matters more than the hype on the label. On paper, honey looks scary to a lot of health-conscious people. It's mostly fructose and glucose. It's sweet, it has calories. So why am I calling it a superfood? Because unlike refined sugar, honey is not just empty energy. Good raw honey is like a bioactive cocktail of natural enzymes, antioxidants, organic acids, antibacterial compounds, trace minerals, and prebiotic fibers. This combo literally changes how your body responds to it. Honey has serious antibacterial power. Its low water content, acidity, and special compounds like hydrogen peroxide make it difficult for harmful microbes to grow. Certain honeys, like medical-grade Manuka honey, even have unique antibacterial components beyond peroxide. When applied to skin, honey creates a moist, protective environment, pulls fluid away from the wound, and supports tissue repair. That's why it has been used for burns, cuts, and ulcers for centuries, and still is, in clinical settings with sterile-graded honey. On top of that, the darker and more raw the honey, the more antioxidant compounds it usually has, helping your body handle oxidative stress and inflammation. And while it's still sugar, studies show that in moderation, honey can have a different impact on blood markers compared to the same amount of refined sugar, thanks to those extra bioactive compounds. So yes, it's sugar, but it's sugar with a brain and a first aid kit. Let me ask you this. Have you ever used honey for anything other than sweetening tea or toast? Have you tried it on your skin, for a sore throat, or during a cold? Drop your experience in the comments, especially if you've used it as more than just flavoring. Real stories help more than any study quote ever could. Now, if honey is this powerful, why did we walk away from it? There are 3 big reasons. First, industrial sweeteners took over. When refined sugar and later high fructose corn syrup became cheap and mass-produced, food companies jumped on them. They were predictable, easy to store and transport, and most importantly, dirt cheap compared to real honey. Honey crystallizes, varies in flavor and texture, and its quality depends heavily on seasons and flowers, not ideal if you're remaking millions of identical cookies. So honey got pushed into the fancy category, not an everyday staple. Second, the all sugar is evil narrative swept through the health world. When experts correctly started attacking refined sugar, honey got caught in the crossfire. A lot of advice just threw everything sweet into one basket. Sugar is sugar. End of story. That's simpler, but not accurate. That's like saying olive oil and industrial trans fats are both just fats, so they're the same. Technically yes, but in your body? Completely different story. Same with honey. You can abuse it and get into trouble, or you can use it strategically and benefit from it. Third, fake and low-quality honey flooded the market. A lot of what you see on store shelves is overheated, ultra-filtered, and sometimes adulterated with other syrups. By the time it reaches you, many of the enzymes and bioactive compounds that make honey special are gone. People try it for health, feel nothing, and think, meh, it's just sugar. We didn't really erase honey, we replaced it with a hollow imitation. So let's talk about choosing honey that actually behaves like a superfood instead of sugary syrup. There are 4 basic categories you should know. First, raw honey. This is honey that hasn't been heated to high temperatures or ultra-filtered, and it still contains pollen, enzymes, and natural crystals. This is what I reach for when I want general health benefits and daily use. Second, monofloral honeys, honey made mostly from one flower source, like manuka, sidra, acacia, buckwheat honey, and so on. Each flower gives the honey a different profile. Some are more antibacterial. Some are milder and better for blood sugar. Some are packed with antioxidants. Third, medical-grade honey, which is sterile, standardized, and used in hospitals and clinics for wound care, often based on manuka with tested antibacterial strength. It's expensive, but incredibly effective. Fourth, regular commercial honey, that big plastic bear bottle. Often pasteurized, filtered, blended from multiple countries, and in worst cases, cut with other syrups. It tastes fine, but health-wise, you're not really getting the ancient superfood, you're just getting sweet liquid. If your honey looks and behaves too perfect, always liquid, ultra-clear, never crystallizes, be suspicious. Real honey often crystallizes, varies in color, and has tiny specks of pollen. Now, let's talk real-world uses that still make honey worth having at home. For minor cuts, scrapes, and superficial burns, honey can be an amazing dressing. It keeps the wound moist, acts as a mild antimicrobial barrier, and supports tissue regeneration. I'm not your doctor, and for serious wounds you absolutely should see a professional. But for small cuts and shallow burns, I've personally seen raw honey and medical-grade honey help wounds stay cleaner and heal with less irritation. If you can afford it, medical-grade manuka wound gel, replaceable. Any reputable medical manuka product is ideal for this. If not, a good local raw honey is a solid step up from doing nothing. Then there's sore throat and cough relief, the classic use. A spoonful of honey, especially with warm water, lemon, or ginger, can coat and soothe your throat, reduce irritation, and help you sleep better when a cough is keeping you up. I keep 1 jar specifically for medicine use, and when I feel that first scratchy throat, I go for a dark raw honey or a strong variety like buckwheat honey, replaceable. Any robust, dark local honey. Honey can also support digestion. It contains prebiotic components that can help feed beneficial gut bacteria. It's not some miracle cure, but many people tolerate a bit of honey better than the same sweetness from refined sugar, especially if they have a sensitive gut. I sometimes use a teaspoon of honey in warm, not boiling water in the morning as gentle support. Not daily, not in big amounts, just occasionally. And for energy, if you're active working out, hiking, or just grinding through long days, a small amount of honey can be a cleaner, quick energy source than many processed options. Some athletes use honey-based gels instead of synthetic ones. A simple DIY version is raw honey plus a pinch of sea salt in water. It's not magic, but it works, and it's less artificial than most sports drinks. Now, I'm curious, have you ever actually felt a difference when using honey versus regular sugar for energy, digestion, or colds? Or does it all feel the same to you? Be honest in the comments. Real experiences help people more than polished advice. That said, it's time for some tough love. Honey is powerful, but it's still calorically dense sugar. If you pour it over everything, treat it like you can't overdo it because it's natural or think it somehow cancels out a junk food diet, you're going to run into the same problems as with any other sugar: weight gain, blood sugar issues, and metabolic stress. People mess up when they think healthy automatically means unlimited. 2 tablespoons of honey are roughly similar in calories to 2 tablespoons of sugar. It doesn't become a diet food just because it came from bees. If your day is already packed with sweet drinks, desserts, and processed foods, honey is not a magical loophole. And if you've got diabetes or insulin resistance, honey should be treated with the same respect and caution as any carb source, ideally with guidance from a health professional. So yes, it's a functional food but not a free pass. Let's get strategic and talk about buying honey that actually delivers. If you're on a budget, here's how I'd prioritize. At the top tier, if you can afford it, is medical-grade Manuka honey, specifically labeled for wound care or high antibacterial activity. Use it for wound support, stubborn skin issues, and moments where you really want that antimicrobial power. A typical example would be Replaceable, a branded Manuka wound gel or Medahoney product. In the next tier, for high-quality everyday use, look for local raw honey from a trusted beekeeper or verified brand. Perfect for sore throats, digestion support, and general health. Something like Replaceable, local raw wildflower honey from your farmer's market is a great staple. Dark monofloral honeys like buckwheat chestnut or heather tend to be higher in antioxidants. Think Replaceable, raw buckwheat honey, unfiltered. On a tighter budget, regular supermarket honey that at least says 100% pure honey, and ideally unfiltered or unpasteurized, can still be a small upgrade over dumping refined sugar into everything. It's not perfect, but it's a step forward. Red flags, ultra-clear honey that never crystallizes, vague labels like honey blend, and prices that are suspiciously low compared to other brands in the same region. When in doubt, go smaller and higher quality rather than big and too cheap. And if you want concrete examples, I'll list some recommended honeys and resources in the description, from everyday raw to medical grade options, so you don't have to guess. Now, how do you actually integrate honey into your life without letting it turn into a sugar trap? One approach I like is the targeted use strategy. Instead of using honey every single day just because it's healthy, you bring it out for colds, sore throats after hard training days, or as occasional support for digestion. You keep medical-grade honey specifically for wounds or skin, and you don't dip into that jar for random sweet cravings. Another rule I live by is replace, don't add. If you want honey in your diet, swap it in for another sweetener. Replace sugar in your tea or coffee with honey. Use it instead of syrup on pancakes. Let it be the main sweet element in homemade sauces or marinades. You're not adding more sweetness overall. You're upgrading the sweetness that's already there. In terms of dosage, I tend to keep it around 1 to 2 teaspoons at a time. Not giant tablespoons, unless there's a specific reason like a brutal sore throat night or high-endurance exercise. That's not a strict rule, but it's a nice balance between benefit and metabolic sanity. Let us be real. Have you ever gone overboard with a healthy food just because the label made it sound safe, whether it was honey, nuts, protein bars, or something else? I know I have. Share your confessions in the comments. We've all been there. Now let's bust a few myths. Myth 1. Honey is basically the same as sugar. Reality. Chemically, they're both carbs. But honey brings additional properties, antibacterial, antioxidant, and prebiotic, that refined sugar simply doesn't. They're not identical in how they behave in your body, especially in reasonable doses. Myth 2. If it's honey, it's automatically good for you. Reality. Low quality, overheated, or adulterated honey might only give you sweetness and very little else. The healing reputation belongs to real, minimally processed honey, not just anything yellow in a squeeze bottle. Myth 3. Honey can cure all diseases. Reality. No. Honey is a powerful supportive food and a time-tested topical aid, but it's not a cure-all. If someone sells it like a miracle, be cautious. Use it as part of a smart lifestyle and alongside real medical care, not instead of it. So why call honey an erased superfood? Because we took something that our ancestors trusted as medicine, that modern science continues to show has real measurable effects, and that we can use strategically to support healing, energy, and gut health, and we either downgraded it to glorified pancake syrup or demonized it along with junk sugar. Honestly, both extremes miss the point. If you treat honey like candy, it behaves like candy. If you treat honey like a tool respecting dose, quality, and purpose, it becomes what it's always been, a rare example of a sugar that heals. My favorite practical system is the 2-jar strategy. Keep 2 jars of honey at home. Jar number 1 is your everyday upgrade, a decent quality raw local honey for tea, recipes, and occasional daily use. Mentally label this jar as replace, don't add. Whenever it shows up, something else sweet should disappear. Jar number 2 is your medicine and emergencies jar, a higher grade honey like medical, Manuka, or a very high quality raw honey reserved for wounds, burns, tough colds, and throat issues. This jar isn't for dessert. It lives in the same category as bandages and antiseptic part of your home toolkit. That simple separation stops you from overusing the good stuff and ensures it is there when you really need it. Let's recap. Honey isn't just natural sugar. Good honey is a bioactive, Medicinal food with antibacterial, antioxidant, and wound-healing properties. We erased it as a superfood by replacing it with cheap industrial sweeteners, oversimplifying nutrition into all sugar is bad, and flooding the market with low-quality imitations. Not all honey is equal: raw, local, dark. And certain monofloral or medical-grade honeys are where the real magic happens. Used strategically, honey can support wound healing, soothe sore throats, help your gut, and give you steady energy. Used carelessly, it's just another sugar source. The difference is in how you choose it, how much you use, and why you're using it. If you want to try the types I've mentioned, raw local honey, a good dark antioxidant-rich honey, or medical-grade manuka for wound care, I've linked some solid options in the description. Everything I talk about in videos like this, I try to make easy to find down there, and some may be affiliate links just to keep things simple for you. Now I want to hear from you. What's your experience with honey healing or hype? Do you have a family remedy with honey that actually works? Drop it in the comments. I read them, I learn from them, and they help me decide what to cover next. If this gave you a new perspective on something as simple as sugar, hit like, subscribe if you want more no BS. Experience-backed breakdowns like this. And check out the next video where we talk about other forbidden foods that are actually misunderstood. Remember, it's not about demonizing everything sweet. It's about knowing what truly works and why.